Hey everyone, welcome back to the first video of Krita class, and I'm really excited to start this. So we're going to try and keep it simple and only focus on prepping our file and getting the basics down. So first, when you open Krita, this is going to be a rough example of what Krita will look like. Now, if you've been using Krita for a while, you're going to have a bunch of files here. If this is your first time using Krita, it's going to look empty like this. And you won't have the comics manager there, so I'm going to close that. There we go. Now it's a little bit more accurate. So we have our community, we have our news. Pay attention to this for updates. I tend to get distracted. I don't realize when a new update is out. So since Krita has added this news feature, it's been very helpful in making sure I am up to date with Krita updates. And over here we can do new image or open image, same with file new, all that good stuff. I'm not gonna go too crazy with the interface here, but this is just a quick overview. So we're gonna do a new image. I have a predefined custom file here. If you want to make your own, what you can do is just add in your dimensions here, whether pixels or inch, and then name it and then hit save. There are no right or wrong dimensions or anything like that, just don't do like 2 pixels by 2 pixels. That doesn't make any sense. If we look at the inches here, this is an 8 by 12 image. Don't ask why, it's just something I've done for forever. So if you want to go ahead and do exactly what I do, you can go ahead and put down my width and height here in pixels, 3600 by 2400 at a resolution of 300. And I'm just keeping the color at RGB alpha 8. No big deal, whatever, just the basics. I think that's the default. If you want, you can do it to a 16 to 32 for a higher color range, or if you want to make this a print later, I'd recommend changing it to CMYK to make sure everything is more color accurate from screen to print. But for now, we're gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna hit create. All right, so now we have our file. Here we have our layers. We have our brushes down here, our tool settings, all this good stuff. And what we're going to do today is just do some cloud painting. That's going to be this project for about 3 videos. However, there's a purpose to it. We're going to use a reference image. We are going to learn how to do brushes, how to use the layers, how to do some basic blending, things like that. And I figured a cloud would be like the easiest way to learn a bunch of those tools. So to start with, I'm going to add in my reference image, and we're going to use the reference images tool right here. Now your toolbar may look a little bit different just because I have mine set wider and I've added a quick settings docker and the overview docker here. So you may not have these. If you'd like to add them, you can go to settings, dockers, and open them by clicking on whichever it is in the list here, where quick settings and there it is, overview. And you can just drag and drop them here. All right, so I'm gonna go to my reference image tool. I'm gonna go over here to my tool options, which is by the layers tab. I'm going to click the plus icon and it's going to open up my file explorer. I don't remember what it's called on a Mac, but in Windows it's just your file explorer, and you can go and find your reference images through there. Alright, so I have this really nice cloud image that I took with my really old cell phone, which I didn't realize how old it was until things started not working. But this is what we're going to use to just start blocking things out and kind of practicing some stuff. If you would like this image, I will put it in my Discord server after this video goes live. And you can go ahead and just right click and download it, or you can use your own reference image or one you find online. There is no right or wrong way to use any reference image, especially when it comes to clouds for this quick tutorial series. We're just going to be using it because you can get a lot done with just a simple image. All right, so what I'm going to do with my reference tool, I can click on it, move it around, I can scale it. I'm actually going to scale this down. And as you can see, it's moving off the canvas, which is awesome. So you can kind of like draw with it here in the corner. I'm just going to place it here for now because I don't really need this to be like smack dab in the middle of my canvas because this is just my reference. All right, so now that we have that set up, I'm actually going to bring my brush presets docker out so we can kind of take a look at it. Okay, so here are the brush presets. I have everything set to all so we can see everything all at once. And that includes brushes that are not tagged. If I do all untagged, it's just a bunch of watercolor brushes for me. If I do all, then everything's in there, including brushes that don't have a tag. Now, if you don't know what a tag is, if you right click on any of these brushes, you can see that it has a name assigned to it. And what that does, it basically just adds a category. So I have a custom category. I have some custom brushes here that I've made and some blending brushes that I use very often. The benefit to having a tag is if you go to your brush tool, make sure that's selected and you right click, you can see I have this round thing here. This is your pop-up palette. So what your pop-up palette's going to do, it's going to have you be able to choose colors pretty quickly. It shows your last color here in the outer ring, and you have a bunch of brushes here on the outside. So if you click on this label, you could actually go through and pick different brushes that are assigned this tag. You can go to my favorites. So my custom tag is here. If you want to learn more about the pop-up palette, go to my channel, search pop-up palette in the search bar, and you can get a more in-depth look at the pop-up palette. All right, so we're gonna close that for now. So what brushes we're gonna be using within this tutorial series, I'm definitely gonna be using blending brushes. So those are going to be these right here. Okay, now these are the only blending brushes. If you hover over them, it'll even say it's a blender, and then it has a description of what kind of blender. Pixelize, a blender rake, blender smear, and textured soft. And then you have some extra brushes down here that are different types. So I don't really think there's a right or wrong way to what brush you can use for making the clouds. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I'm probably going to be using a custom brush I've made, which is my custom ink brush, just because it's more of a solid brush, like with a little bit of a textured edge. And then I may be using a airbrush here, which is the basic flow. So if you look up here, these are the airbrushes. These are some of your ink brushes. You have pencils, so you want to make a pencil effect, you can do that. If you have gone through and tried a couple of these really cool paintbrushes in here and you want to use that instead, that's totally fine. Whatever brush you decide on using is whatever you're comfortable with. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And then for the blending brushes, I'm definitely going to be using the blur the most, and maybe a little bit of the, what is this? Blender Basic. I don't remember the names. I just recognize their images. All right, so I'm gonna put this back here. Unlock that so I don't mess that up. All right, so now that we kind of have an idea of what brushes we're gonna be using for this series, I do want to look at the layers here and kind of explain what we're gonna be doing with the layers. So I'm definitely gonna be having a layer specifically for just the cloud here. For the sky itself, we're gonna put that on a separate layer underneath. So I'm just gonna go ahead and label these. I normally don't label my layers, but for the purpose of this tutorial series, I want to kind of like build good habits of having different layers for things. So we're gonna put sky here, and then here we're gonna put cloud. I'm actually gonna put this and say it's a cloud base, because there may be a time where we want to use extra layers for the cloud to test out different colors, different blending techniques, things like that. And that way, by using a different layer, we're not like destroying the original layer that we worked with. All right, so now we've kind of gone over the basics of setting up the file. I'm gonna go ahead and start blocking out the shape for the cloud and just doing a very basic, like flat colored shape. We're not going to do any major shading. We're not going to do any blending today, but we will be setting up the file to work with that later on. Now, a really fun way to do this, there's two ways to actually make the cloud shape with just a solid color. If you want to be super accurate to your reference image, you can hold the control key and your eyedropper pops up and you can go ahead and pick a color from the clouds. Now you can actually see, even though it looks kind of purple, this is actually more of an orangish red. And that's because of the sun's glow on this, which is, in my opinion, beautiful. Like even here, this isn't purple, this is just a red, which is pretty cool. So if you would like to keep it color accurate, you can go ahead and just eyedrop from any part of your reference image. If you want to try and eyeball it, that's totally fine. Let's see, this looks kind of pink here. I'm gonna try here. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, that was close. Well, let's go there. I'm just going to start with like the flat color here, and that way I can build with light and shadow later on. So now we're going to start, I'm going to go to our cloud-based layer, and we're just going to kind of roughly draw out the shape. We're not going to focus too much on it. It doesn't have to be like super accurate, because when we start doing the shading and the lighting, we're going to probably change things a little bit anyway. All right, so we are done with that. So I'm actually going to try and match the reference a little bit better. So I'm going to actually move my layer down. So I'm going to go over to my transform tool, and it automatically will be like, okay, this is the only content in this layer. We can select the whole thing. And now I can just shift and drag this down. I'm not trying to be like super accurate to the reference here, but I want like the basic shape here. It is pretty. All right, so for the most part, I think I have it done. Now I did kind of forget one little helpful detail. If you are using the keyboard, if you hit E, you can automatically enter the eraser mode for the brush you're using. And that kind of speeds things up and it helps. Again, I have a hotkey on my tablet, so it kind of makes life a little bit easier, where I can just hit that hotkey because I have it to the E, so I can get my eraser much quicker. All right, so we have our basic cloud shape done. So for the most part, I think for this video, I think we're almost at 20 minutes of recording. So I think after I edit it down, it'll be like 15 minutes. This is a good spot to just kind of finish for this video. And next week, we're going to actually go into more advanced more detail for this cloud. So if you're watching this and you're happy and you like where this is going, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video. But if you want to do something more, I'll even give you an extra credit. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of extra credit here. I want you to take this and I want you to do something completely different with the color. Let's say you're looking at this and you want to change this. We're gonna do purple. All right, we're gonna change this to purple. For the record, I am logging transparency and I'm coloring into the area. So for extra credit, you can change a color that a cloud normally wouldn't be, right? This lovely purple. And you can go ahead and continue this series by using shades of purple and blue that kind of match your reference, but just a different color. And if you want to go above and beyond that, instead of like a normal cloud like this, you can do like a thunderstorm cloud, tornado clouds, crazy clouds. You know, have fun with it. It doesn't have to be that serious. All right, so this is your homework for next week on the screen. If this is easier than just listening to me say what your homework is, go ahead and screenshot this. I will also put this in the Krita class channel in my Discord server and pin that so you can access it much more easily. All right, so make sure to like this video, and like I said, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. And if you would like to share your progress so far, or you have any questions about setting up your file, make sure to join the Discord link in the description of the video. I have a section just for the Krita class, and I'd love to see your stuff in there and see how you're moving along. If you went farther along with this than the video, which is totally fine. Just doing step by step here just to keep it simple. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.